Have you ever loved someone so much that you lost yourself? This is a story about letting go, not because the love was gone, but because it was time to find yourself again. The rainy goodbye, Loichia te trong wasomi breakups are quiet, some are explosive, and then there's the kind that happens in the rain. Imagine standing in the middle of a cobblestone street in Copenhagen. It's cold. The kind of cold that creeps into your coat, under your scarf, all the way to your bones. The rain isn't heavy, just steady enough to blur the streetlights and soak your shoulders. And in front of you is the person you once thought you'd grow old with, but now you're saying goodbye not because of a big fight, not because someone cheated, but because something inside both of you quietly faded. The laughter didn't echo the same way. The mornings felt heavier. The love, still there, just wasn't enough. They say Danish people don't like drama. Turns out, neither did we, so we stood there. Two soaked souls, trying to hold on to something that was already letting go. And then, one of us finally whispered, "Maybe this is it." That moment, it doesn't come with fireworks. It comes with a silence that rings louder than any scream. And the funny part, even though I wanted to beg them to stay, I didn't. Because deep down, I knew the truth. If I didn't let them go, I'd keep losing myself. I watched them walk away, not into the sunset, but into the gray, rainy mist of a Danish afternoon. That was the first time I realized letting go might just be the bravest kind of love. The silent apartment silence can be louder than a scream, especially when it follows the sound of a door closing. I came home to the same apartment, same keys, same creaky floorboard near the kitchen, same little plant on the windowsill that never stopped dying, no matter how often we watered it. But something had shifted. The cushions on the couch felt too neat. The mugs in the cupboard were too clean, and the space between the two chairs at the dinner table suddenly looked like a canyon. You never realize how loud love is until it's gone. It's in the hum of the kettle boiling for 2 cups. It's in the rhythm of shared footsteps. It's in the quiet giggles you thought were just background noise. And now, there's nothing that I sat down not to cry. That would have been easy, but just to exist. In the echo, like my brain needed time to update the software. New status. You're alone now. My phone didn't ring. Dinner didn't smell like anyone's favorite. And I swear, even the cat from the building next door stopped showing up. This silence, it wasn't peace. It was emptiness in disguise. And yet, somewhere inside, something whispered, "This is the part where you rebuild." But I wasn't ready. Not yet. Not when even the sound of my own voice in that apartment felt too unfamiliar, too foreign, too English, because learning English was part of the plan, but now it wasn't just a skill. It was the only thing left that still moved forward while everything else stood still. So I made a decision that I'd try, not because I was ready, but because if I didn't start now, I might never start again. The language struggle. Mat Phuong Hung Voi Tiang on Here's the Thing No One Tells You. Trying to learn a new language while your heart is broken feels like trying to run a marathon with no legs. Every word felt heavy. Every sentence, a mountain. And my brain, a distracted toddler who just lost their favorite toy. I opened my English book. Page 1, hello. My name is... I stopped. My name is... Who even was I now? I tried repeating sentences out loud, but the only sound louder than my shaky pronunciation was the voice in my head. You're too old for this. You're too sad to focus. You're not good enough. And honestly, I believed it. See, your brain doesn't care if you want to learn. IT only cares if you feel safe. And mine didn't, because grief is chaos. And chaos makes it hard to remember anything. Even simple English words that I try to watch YouTube videos, but everyone spoke too fast. Their mouths moved like race cars, while mine stalled at every stoplight. I tried reading children's books, but the words danced, twisted, and blurred. I tried speaking to myself in the mirror, but I just looked like someone faking confidence. One night, I closed the book and whispered, "What's the point?" And I meant it, because when your heart's cracked open, learning feels pointless. But then I remembered something. Languages are bridges, and maybe, just maybe, this bridge would carry me somewhere better, even if I had to crawl across it. So I got up. Again that I picked up the book. Again, and this time I didn't try to be perfect. I just tried. Coffee with a stranger, not every turning point comes with flashing lights. Some just come in the form of an old man drinking lukewarm coffee in a quiet corner of a Danish cafe. It was a Tuesday. Cold. Windy. I went to the cafe near the library. Not because I wanted coffee, but because I couldn't stand the silence in my apartment anymore. I ordered the cheapest thing on the menu and sat in the farthest seat I could find, somewhere between existing and vanishing. And that's when he spoke. English. His accent was thick, but his smile was soft. I nodded. He smiled again, gently motioning to the empty chair across from him. I hesitated, then sat down. He didn't ask many questions. He didn't push. He just started telling me stories about growing up in Aarhus, about riding his bike across frozen lakes, about the girl he once loved but never married, and how he learned English at 62. Too late, he chuckled. Maybe. But who cares? I laughed for the first time in weeks. Not because the story was funny, but because for a moment I forgot to be sad. And then he said something I still remember. You think learning a language is about words, but it's really about patience. Patience, the one thing I didn't have with myself, with my grief. With the processed, we sat there for over an hour, just sipping coffee, speaking slowly, making mistakes, laughing about them. And for once, my English didn't feel like a burden. That IT felt like company, like a hand reaching through the fog, saying, "You're not alone." Not really. When he left, he didn't say goodbye. He just nodded and said, "Keep talking." And maybe that's all I needed to hear. A letter in the park. Some people write letters to lovers. Some write them to the ones who left. That day, I wrote one to the only person I had left, myself. It was a cloudy Sunday, the kind Denmark specializes in. The park bench was still wet from last night's drizzle, but I sat anyway, notebook in hand, pen in pocket, heart completely out in the open. I didn't plan to write anything deep, but the first words spilled out fast. Dear me, I know you're tired. I know you feel like you failed. And just like that, the dam broke. That IT wasn't a fancy letter. IT was raw, broken grammar, messy sentences, half in English, half in pain. I wrote about how hard it was to say goodbye, how I missed their laugh, how I hated waking up alone. I also wrote about English, how the words refused to stick, how every lesson felt like a mirror of everything I couldn't fix inside myself. But then I paused, pen hovering, and I asked myself a question I hadn't dared say out loud before. What if I'm not broken? What if I'm just rebuilding? I stared at that sentence, let it sit, let it breathe, and I realized something. Learning English wasn't failing, that IT was surviving. Every clumsy sentence, every awkward pronunciation was me fighting to be heard in a world that no longer felt like home. By the time I finished, the page was wrinkled, ink smudged by raindrops or maybe tears. That I didn't read it again. Didn't need to, because the act of writing it was enough. Before I left the bench, I folded the letter, tucked it under the seat. Maybe someone would find it, maybe not. But I left it there, like shedding an old skin. And as I walked home, something inside me whispered, "Now start learning like you deserve it." A strange conversation. It started with a pigeon. Yes, seriously, a pigeon. I was sitting in that same park a week later, reading out loud from a beginner's English book, when a pigeon walked right up to my shoe like it had something to say, and then from behind me, "Your accent, it's not bad." I turned around so fast I nearly dropped the book. A woman in her 60s, well, hat too big for her head, holding a paper bag of seeds, smiling. "Don't mind the bird," she said. "Mind your voice. That's where the magic is." She sat beside me without asking, started tossing seeds, and just like that, she became part of my story. She asked me what I was reading, why I was reading aloud, why I looked like I was both terrified and trying not to cry. I told her everything, the breakup, the letter, the feeling of being lost in my own life. And then, like it was nothing, she said, "You know, darling, every time you say something in a new language, you're planting a seed. Not all of them grow right away, but one day you'll look back and realize you've built a whole garden." That hit me harder than I expected, not because it was poetic, but because someone finally said it out loud, that I was allowed to grow slowly, that not knowing everything yet didn't mean I wasn't becoming something new. We talked for almost an hour about Denmark, about words, about pain and pigeons and planting seeds. And when she left, she turned and said, "Keep reading out loud. Even if it's just to the pigeons, they don't judge." It was the weirdest, kindest, most healing English lesson I never signed up for. Breaking the silence the next morning, I did something I hadn't done in years. I looked at myself in the mirror and greeted me in English. "Hi, I'm trying." 2 words, not perfect, not confident, but they came from a place of truth that I started doing this every day, practicing not just vocabulary, but presence. Speaking slowly, speaking kindly to myself like I was someone worth listening to, and weirdly enough, I started to believe it. You see, language is never just about words. It's about permission to be messy, to begin again. To sounds strange until it feels like music. Some mornings I'd still want to give up. There were days I could barely pronounce comfortable without feeling like my tongue was in a blender, but then I'd remember, even a broken voice is still a voice, and that was more than I had a month ago. Then came the cafe, a small one, tucked between 2 flower shops. One cloudy afternoon, I walked in, ordered tea, sat by the window, and when the waitress came to ask if I needed anything else, I said, slowly, "No, thank you. This is enough." She smiled. "Good English," she said. "Your voice sounds gentle." I almost cried into my tea. Not because of the compliment, but because for the first time, someone saw me in this in-between place and didn't laugh, didn't correct, didn't rush, just listened. And in that quiet moment, my silence finally felt like it had broken. The love I let go, there was no dramatic goodbye, and teary airport scenes. Just me one morning, writing a letter I'd never send. It said, "I loved you deeply, but I forgot how to love myself. This time, I choose me." Letting go didn't mean forgetting. Didn't mean pretending it never mattered. Meant honoring what we had, while no longer abandoning the parts of me that begged to be seen. I moved to a new apartment, started taking evening walks, and practiced English out loud with strangers who didn't know my past, only my present. I bought a small plant that IT died in 2 weeks. I bought another one. It's still alive. That felt like progress. Some days, I still miss him, the laughter, the rituals, the way he made winter in Denmark feel warm, but I no longer wish he'd come back. Because this new love I'm growing, the one with myself, with language, with starting over, is finally enough. If you're watching this and you're in the middle of your own letting go, know this. It doesn't make you weak. That IT makes you honest. Letting go is how you finally hear your own voice. And maybe, just maybe, that's when the real conversation begins. That's all for today. I will make more videos like this in the future. Please subscribe to see more.